She scolded the wrong guy and lost her job. So we had a true Karen at work. Her name really was Karen, and she lived up to it. She took it upon herself to police all of the other employees in a cubicle and office setting. Heaven forbid that someone use the printer without using double-sided printing or print something for personal use. She was called the Printer Nazi. Now, our company also had two buildings, a corporate office and a production office. The production office is where I worked, and sometimes visitors from the corporate office would use a vacant cubicle and vice versa. Our information technology department was normally located at the corporate office to keep them close to upper management. One day, we had information technology staff in our offices using a few of our cubicles while they did some system upgrades. Karen had no clue who these people were, so she took it upon herself to walk behind them to police their actions. One gentleman happened to be checking the weather, which was allowed, by the way, for employee and company safety. We had major storms coming in that day. Karen saw his screen and decided to stop and scold him for using the company intranet for pursuits outside of company business. Now here is the kicker. Remember I said she did not know who this gentleman was? He was the head of information technology. He never told her who he was and just played it cool. He came and told me what took place during our next break, as he and I were close work friends. I told him she was the office Karen and made everyone miserable with her constant tattling and reprimands. So he decided on the ultimate petty revenge. He checked her internet browsing history. Now, Karen had her own office, so she was able to do just about anything without getting caught. She had been online shopping nearly every single day for several hours each day. She even left him that day, went to her office, and purchased a blouse, like the hypocrite that she was. I later found out that he turned her in for misuse of the company intranet, and they physically walked her out 1 week later. Had she minded her own business, they never would have checked her history. Goodbye, Karen.
Write what you think about this story, and we'll move on to the next one.
Coworker laughed at his wife's apples. Huge mistake. It is very gently petty, but a good story. This is my father's, Dave's, story that happened when he was a newlywed. No, I was not even thought of yet. Dad always had really soft teeth, courtesy of poor nutrition during the Depression, so dental work was a fact of his life. Very soon after coming back to work after the honeymoon, he had to get some dental work done, which was going to take a while. Think multiple dentist visits. Anyway, Mom always packed Dad's lunches because he left their apartment so early in the morning, and she did not have to leave for work until much later. Now, because of the dental work, Dad could not just bite into a whole apple and had to have the skins removed so they would not get caught in the works, which Mom happily did for him. Now, Dad was a master tradesman in a highly skilled trade, which one is not important, and he worked with a bunch of loudmouth jokesters. They had been ragging on Dad because he was a newlywed, and they just would not let up. Every day it was another set of comments, so when Dad came in with a peeled, cored, and sliced apple for lunch, the comments just got worse. The one that really got Dad, I do not know why this was the one that really angered him, but was on the order of, "Whoa, look what Dave brought today, a peeled and sliced apple. Boy, oh boy, you can tell Dave is still on his honeymoon if his wife is doing that for him." This was accompanied by gales of laughter from this jerk. Well, Dad came home and told Mom what was going on and said, "Sue, you know how you have been peeling and slicing my apples so I can eat them while the dental work is going on? Well, these guys have been really yanking my chain about being a newlywed and thinking you're doing this for me because of that. I want to wipe the smirk off his jerk's face. I would really appreciate it if, for as long as I work there, you could keep that up." Mom, being a badass herself, was really happy to stick it to this guy. Every day for 2 years until Dad got a new job, when she packed an apple for Dad, it was always peeled, cored, and sliced. And the jerk? Well, as you can figure out, the comments got fewer and fewer as time went on and finally stopped. On Dad's last day there, he made sure to have his usual cored, peeled, and sliced apple. Lunchtime came around, and he turned to the jerk, looked him dead in the eye, took a bite of the apple, and said, "Well, I guess my honeymoon never ended, huh?" The jerk bent his head, looking at the floor, while everyone else started laughing at him for a change. Rest in peace, Dad.
Write what you think about this story, and we'll move on to the next one.
92 years old and still mad about my childhood revenge. Back in the early 1980s, when I was but a young boy, my father insisted that my siblings and I attend his church. When I was around 13 years old, hitting puberty and upset at the world, I despised having to go to Sunday school. I mean, really, being 13 and having to spend an entire hour coloring pictures of Jesus and so forth kind of angered me. One Sunday, I asked my father if I could stay for the rest of the service instead of having to attend the dreaded Sunday school class. I was done with crayons, for goodness sake. My father said no. I was angry, to say the least. Sunday school started after the church announcements. Once the announcements were done, the children would leave and go upstairs to the school. Well, sitting there and hearing the announcements while angry about what I thought was a coherent argument, not wanting to color pictures of Jesus for the next hour, I heard a new one. The church was looking for ushers. There was a sign-up table on the way out. This was and is a lifelong commitment. So, as the children were asked to leave for Sunday school, I firmly asked my father again if I could just stay with him instead. He emphatically said no and shooed me away. So, I calmly walked up to the sign-up counter right by the door, turned and looked toward him. He was not paying attention. It did not matter. I signed him up to be an usher. We had the same two first initials and last name. I had forged his signature a couple of times due to teenage school issues, so I had a relatively good copy. 2 weeks later, when he received the notice that he was supposed to usher, he was furious. He could not say, "My son signed me up, I cannot or will not do this." He had to save face. He had been attending this place since 1933, except for when he was in college or overseas. So my father ended up becoming an usher for the next 20 years, every third Sunday at St. Paul's Episcopal Church. I received a severe punishment that today's children would never understand, yet until he left the city, he showed up every 3 weeks to do his duty. He is 92 years old now and still reminds me of how I got him.
Write what you think about this story, and we'll move on to the next one.
If you fire me, then I will get you fired. When I was 22, I worked at a small auto shop under a newly hired supervisor. Let us call him C. He was quite rude to customers, mostly mistreated employees, and withheld 2 of my paychecks, daring me to complain. I stayed quiet, thinking I would lose my job. Then I overheard him bragging about rolling back odometers. I started documenting everything: shady titles, fake bills, and receipts, 3 months' worth of evidence. Eventually, C fired me without paying what he owed. I planned to reach out to the owner, a decent man who had no idea what was happening. His office was at a different location, however, he would visit the shop mostly to collect the weekly collections. He would treat the staff with complimentary snacks or a small-time pizza party, and so on. So I went straight to the owner. I handed him a neatly organized folder and told him everything that C did. The owner assured me that I would get my job back, but asked for some time so that he could investigate the matter thoroughly. 2 weeks later, I got a call from the owner. He told me to come down to the shop. He stormed into the shop with a few bouncer-like folks. The owner contacted most of our customers who were treated rudely, took their feedback, and made notes. I was confident enough that the owner had considered my evidence during his investigations. What happened to C? Folks grabbed his collar and threw him out of the shop. He walked away with a puppy face, like a dog with its tail between its legs. One of my coworkers replaced him, and the shop turned into a genuinely pleasant place to work. We would laugh about that dark chapter for years. I always believed and practiced, do no harm, take no shit.
Write what you think about this story, and we'll move on to the next one.
He did what? Several years ago, I was waiting in a grocery deli line to pick up some potato wedges for my wife. It was not a long line. I was 4th or 5th in line and the last person in it. Up walks some lady, that is what I will call her, and what I presume to be her daughter or granddaughter. Anyway, some lady keeps trying to jump the line each time a person was served, and the patient deli worker kept telling her she needed to wait her turn, with some lady getting more and more frustrated that she could not just do what she wanted. The guy before me goes, and I hear her telling her daughter or granddaughter, "This is ridiculous, I just want some wedges." This being petty revenge, we know exactly what I plan to do upon hearing that. Finally, we get to my turn, and she tries to jump again, only this time I speak up and let her know the end of the line is behind me. She did not like that at all, exclaiming, "This is nonsense. It is first come, first served." The worker and I just stared at her until she walks back to her irritation area off to the side, and I see there are very few potato wedges available. So I tell the worker I will need more than what is available, and he says they will need to drop some more. About a 5-minute wait, it was longer than that, closer to 10 as it turns out. Knowing what the lady wants, and that it is not there, I say he can help her. They go through the same process, which irritates her further, but she says something like, "Fine, might as well at this point," and steps aside in a huff. New wedges are brought out, and I see her start to move like she is going to jump in front of me, but I remind her I am next to order. The deli guy asks how much I want, usually in pounds, and I quietly say, I want all of the wedges. All of them? All of them. He cracks a bit of a smile and says, sure thing, and gathers them up for me. I start to walk away, slowly, so I can see the aftermath, and shrilly she shouts, he did what? And whips her head around to me. I wish I could say I locked eyes with her and ate a wedge right in her face, but alas, that idea came to me as I recounted the tale to my wife at home. Best $14 I ever spent.
Write what you think about this story, and we'll move on to the next one.
My manager thought she knew better, then karma hit hard. I was 22 and in college when I got hired as the assistant manager at a pizza place. After about 3 weeks of working there, the manager who hired me suddenly quit. Even though I had only been there for a short time, I ended up running the store for months until they finally found a new manager. I was a quick learner, so I picked things up fast. They even offered me the manager job, but being in college, I did not want that kind of long-term responsibility. One day, the new manager showed up, and she was a piece of work. Straight out of the company training program, she came in and started making sweeping changes, completely ignoring the systems we had in place that actually kept the place running. Our pizzas were supposed to be hot and ready, which meant we had to prepare ahead of time, but she was all about doing things strictly by the book. During the week, sales were relatively slow, but even so, when we followed the book, we struggled, and customers complained. But we made it to Thursday. That morning, I went over the sales numbers with her, explaining how 65% of the pizzas we sold were on the weekends, and how crazy busy it got. I explained how every Friday we made 4 times as much dough as allowed by the book in the morning, how we rearranged the preparation tables, pre-folded hundreds of pizza boxes, and so on. Basically, the entire day on Thursday was spent preparing non-perishables. After we talked, I assumed she was handling it, so I started counting the cash drawers in stock. About 30 minutes later, I noticed the dough maker giving me a wide-eyed, what the heck look. When I walked over, he told me she had instructed him to make only the by-the-book amount of dough for Friday. In parentheses, for context, by the book meant we were not allowed to make more than a set number of dough balls or prepare more than a set number of pizzas, wings, sauce, and so on. I re-emphasized to her that we absolutely had to make more dough, summarizing everything I had already explained. She pushed back, saying we did not need it, and went on about food waste and so forth. I pushed back harder, knowing I was right, until I finally broke it down mathematically. She reluctantly caved, and we made the extra dough. The same thing happened with folding the pizza boxes. She insisted it was a waste of time to prepare that many, and actually sent the part-time person I had scheduled to do that specific task and a few others home early. Thankfully, I was able to fold a few stacks of pizza boxes before I went home.
Crisis avoided. Now it was Friday morning, time for fresh preparation. Every time I suggested an amount of preparation needed for a particular item, she pushed back. I mean everything, from stocking Parmesan cheese packets to the amount of wing sauce we made. We finally made it to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I ended up having to compromise on a few preparation items for my own sanity and because I knew the night crew could handle them without it slowing them down too much. Then it was time to prepare the pizzas. By 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we usually had around 100 pizzas prepared. On weekends, we not only placed the dough onto baking sheets, but also sauced, cheesed, and even added pepperoni before refrigerating them. That is how busy it got. It was the only way to keep up. So at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the preparation crew and I started preparing pizzas. She told us to stop. Without stopping, I explained again about our weekend volume, that someone basically had to continue to prepare pizzas constantly during the rush because of demand. Basically, what we were about to prepare still was not enough. She told me again to stop. I did not stop and continued to push back hard because I knew the night crew would absolutely suffer horribly if we did not prepare. By 3:30, it had escalated into a heated argument between her and me. She pulled me outside to try to put me in my place, but I doubled down. While I was mid-sentence, she turned and walked away. Frustrated, I stayed outside for 15 minutes to regroup. When I walked back in and saw it was almost 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I was just pissed off. I knew the night crew was going to be the ones to have to deal with the lack of preparedness, and also, I could not stay because I had an assignment due. Then, it hit me. I went outside and called everyone who was scheduled that night, warning them about the mess they were about to walk into. Almost instantly, the phone inside started ringing non-stop, and since it was already getting busy, I walked back inside and jumped on a register, so she had to answer. One by one, everyone on the night shift called out. She did not say a word to me about it. By 4:45 in the afternoon, all 3 registers had lines out the door. She was running around frantic trying to call people in. She was calling other stores, trying to get employees to come into our location, all while trying to make pizzas in a frenzy. Since she did not mention to me that anything was amiss, I just continued to rapidly take orders for the next 15 minutes or so. Without saying a word, at 5 o'clock in the afternoon sharp, I looked her dead in the eye, clocked out, and left. That was my last day. I went home and never came back. Write what you think about this situation. Also, if you like this video, give a thumbs up, subscribe, and turn on the bell to receive notifications about the latest videos. See you next time. Bye-bye.